Hi everyone, Malcolm Brody here with you once again from Human Vortex Training. You are a certified and experienced USA Cycling expert level coach and strength and conditioning coach. Here today to talk about, do you need to field test in the middle of your season in order to adjust your functional threshold power? So if you have not yet watched our videos on training stress score, I recommend doing that now before we go through this shorter video talking about do you have to field test, because having an understanding of what your intensity factor and your training stress score are and how they impact your riding is very important for you to be able to progress your riding and understand what exactly is going on. Now, that being said, how do athletes that I work with who race at a semi-professional or regular interval throughout the summer, maybe every weekend, how do we adjust their training stress during the summer if they're racing so frequently? The answer is we go by intensity factor sometimes. This is going to depend on a number of things, mostly the type of race, what types of efforts were entailed in it, as well as how the athlete was feeling leading up to these efforts, and knowing that the power meter was calibrated or not beforehand. So when we have these four things, the most important thing to know is what is the athlete's schedule? Do we really not have an opportunity to retest the FTP test and see their functional threshold power because they're racing so much in the recovery? And the second is, do they have any types of races where they're putting out a significant amount of power for a prolonged period of time? So this can be a long climb in a race, this can be a time trial of at least 8 to 12 minutes, or this can be a road race with a very long breakaway or time in the wind. What we can do is look at the intensity factor. So if we look at the intensity factor for, let's say, a time trial, a 40K time trial, or a less than 1 hour time trial, we can actually extrapolate from that with a proper warm-up what your actual FTP is. So if a rider comes back, let's say they do a prologue, which is, let's say, 15-kilometer time trial, and it took them 15 minutes and they had a peak power of 355 watts, we're going to take that number, multiply by 0.95, and that's going to be their new FTP number if their intensity factor was over 1. So let's say in this instance the rider had a 1.07 intensity factor. So we now know that they can maintain that power for that amount of time. We'll take 95% of that and use that as their new functional threshold power number. So this is an amateur racer. If we have someone who's racing over in Europe or who is at the professional level, what we'll do is we'll take that 15 to 20 minute number and we'll use about 97% of that. That's how I personally do it. Other coaches have their own methods. This is how I do it here at HVT. And what that does is allow us to adjust the functional threshold power as you go through the season without having to retest. So the answer to the question is no, you don't necessarily have to retest your FTP throughout a busy season, but you do need to be careful about how and when you choose these numbers from the files. So great email. Thank you very much for sending that in, Eric. Much appreciated, and I hope you guys learned from this. Subscribe below, send me your email questions at humanvortextraining@gmail.com. Check out the Facebook page, Human Vortex Training, for updates on cool training stuff related to cycling, triathlon, running, and just general life and strength and conditioning. So until next time, remember, train smarter, not harder, and it is all about you.